As I'm going to talk to you today about how the United States is about to put, not necessarily sanctions, but they are going to withhold a lot of aid to a lot of African countries that have supported Russia in the invasion of Ukraine. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and look at this in context. When Russia invaded Ukraine in the UN General Assembly, just about half the African nations in the General Assembly voted to, they abstained from voting. The only one that voted to against the resolution to condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine was Eritrea. Every other country in Africa did not vote that way. They either voted to condemn the invasion, like the Democratic Republic of Congo did. I've been critical of them before, but they voted to condemn the invasion. Several other African nations did, but African nations like Mozambique and South Africa, just to name a few, abstained from voting that way. And that is a problem. Well, to go further than this, Russia has seized a lot of Ukrainian grain shipments, and the ones that they haven't seized, they fired on the Ukrainian boats trying to export the grain. Well, Ethiopia imports about half their grain from Ukraine, or at least they did. Well, now, some of these African countries, they're starving, just like a lot of countries are, because Ukraine is a major grain exporter, but Russia's seizing the grain shipments. Most countries have not bought these grain shipments, but some African countries say they will, or they don't care if it's stolen or not. The United States has warned these African nations that are going to do this to not do this. And so that's the context. And then all this is going to do, this is not a racist motive by the United States or anything like that. All this is really going to do, it's going to help the African nations in the long run, because Russia, when they aid a lot of African countries, they turn a blind eye to a lot of corrupt African leaders and ones that abuse human rights. And the Russian special forces that are in the Central African Republic, as well as Mozambique, they have done some good things combating radical Islamic terrorism, but they have also abused human rights badly in a lot of those cases. So this will actually improve the human rights record of a lot of African countries if Russia gets punished for doing dealings in Africa, and if these African leaders get punished for taking stolen grain that was really Ukraine's grain, for giving the money to Russia when it should go to Ukraine. Well, here's the thing. Also, a lot of African countries that do have ties with Russia, they have corrupt leaders. And when aid from the United States and European Union comes to these countries, it doesn't go to the average person. It doesn't go to the suffering poor people in those countries. The leaders embezzle the aid, and the leaders take the aid. Also, the leaders abuse human rights in those countries. And the leaders do not respect constitutional rights. So this will actually benefit Africa in the long run. The bill passed in the U.S. House, I think it was 419 to 9, with about 7 people abstaining from voting. And then it's still got to pass in the Senate, which is predicted to do so by a larger margin. And then President Biden is expected to sign it into law. So many African leaders and some African people are saying that it's meddling in African affairs unjustly, but there are plenty of Africans that support this, because this is actually going to improve the corruption and human rights records in many African nations. So, hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless them. Bye. Bye.